Well, good afternoon. This is Peggy Miller, medical herbalist, and today we're talking about maintenance 14, and it's the episode on topicals and poultices. The reason I separate the two words is to sort of as a reminder. Topical is correct. Topical means that you apply it externally to your body, but the reason I use topicals different than poultices is maybe to remind myself that poultices are usually where you take the dry herb and simply put it in hot water that it steeps in for a little while, or maybe hot water with a little bit of vinegar for a certain additional action. As opposed to most topicals that I call topicals are ointments, oils, serums, and so they're using a different base. Both are applied externally, and they can be a great way to maintain your health. And that's why I wanted to include them. They're also excellent for chronic issues as a part of your herbal regimen, but for your general health, occasionally doing poultices, and I should also say using herbs in your bath, in your using foot baths, herbs in either your entire bath or your foot bath can be an excellent thing to do. You have possibly encountered reflexology, where the foot, and to another degree the hand, but here I'm speaking of feet, the entire body can be addressed through reflexology, and applying topicals and or foot baths and using herbs in that way can be an excellent addition to regular reflexology massage. Basically, as an indication, if you were to take a piece of garlic, and you could try this, take a slice of garlic and rub it on the bottom of your feet. And usually, in most instances, especially if your nose is pretty good and your taste buds, you will taste the sensation on your tongue within 30 seconds to a minute. When herbs are applied to the feet, it is transferred. The skin absorbs. That's the second lesson to be learned here. The skin absorbs what's applied externally. That is often not recognized, except that we all tend to use it in terms of creams, thinking about facial treatments, hand creams, but we forget that overall health issues can be addressed topically, and often is an additional important way to deal with a health concern and to deal with maintenance. And let me give you some examples. A topical, whether it's a poultice or an ointment, when applied, let's say you do a lot of outside chores. You use your body constantly, lifting, pulling, digging, etc. It's just your usual regimen. This can wear down the shoulders, the ligaments in the arms, and in the hands. And in fact, there is a lot of discussion as to the impacts on nerves as well. So how can you avoid ripping, tearing, etc. when this is the kind of work you do? Well, just periodically applying oils, just as you would a hand cream, but you make an oil and you add a little bit of comfrey, you add a little bit of sarsaparilla, because sarsaparilla has an outward action. You add an anti-inflammatory, like oat straw, Oat straw is a nervine, which will not only help soothe the area, but it's a great anti-inflammatory. So when you do this kind of work constantly, it basically can inflame the area. That's the the base start of problems is usually inflammation, just from overwork. Just like our brain lets us know when we've used it too much, the muscles and ligaments can become inflamed just in your everyday life and work. So, and athletes experience this all the time. So I've already talked about how blood nourishment can help using different herbs like Romania and Cornus and Dangi in and schizandra and alma and goji and others in your teas to help with blood nourishment, to keep the ligaments and muscles nourished so they tear less easily, so you can keep on hand a good oil that you prepare yourself just by adding something like oat straw, a little bit of comfrey, horsetail to help with bones, and add some of the herbs that I just mentioned. You can add prepared Romania or goji berry to the oil, and that administers to the area itself blood nourishment, plus it can help by adding the oat straw for anti-inflammation. You basically are applying directly to the area that you know personally you are stressing because of your work. This can help to avoid sciatica nerve problems. If you use oat straw and, let's say, periodic use of skullcap, which actually helps heal nerves, then you can apply it to an area if you have to do a lot of sitting. Or let's say you sit and you try to exercise. I'm thinking right now, to be honest, of computer desk people. They often develop sciatica nerve problems. The others that often do are those that are not paying attention to yin. So you want to keep your yin increased. Romania is good for this. Glennia is good for this. I've gone through yin deficiency in the overviews. Go back to those, and I will treat yin deficiency in its own episode, and it'll probably take more than one because it is a major chronic problem. But when your yin is chronically a little too low, or you tap into it a little too often, then you can experience problems like sciatica nerves. There's relationships between yin and yang and sciatica nerves. So, or any nerve. Nerves need to be taken care of. And so my point here is using topicals can do these things. Applying to the area you're stressing or worried is very important. The other things that topicals and poultices can do is they can help swollen areas. They can help remove blood clots. Sometimes blood clots develop. Let's say you walk a lot or run, or you're outside working, gardening, you're in the farm business, whatever, carpentry, outdoor, anything, or in addition, any active work like plumbers, electricians. They can they'll get home and, be taking showers or something and notice that they have a blood clot down by their ankle. No big deal, they've had them before. Well, you can get rid of those, and it's actually best to. If you see a blood clot, there's different ways to get rid of them. Applying an oil with calendula, as just simply calendula, which is a form of marigold, as part of the oil, can remove the blood clot. It will help disperse it very gently. It's better to disperse blood clots if you can see them, because they add to stagnation, and then stagnation causes its own problems because they eventually move to the liver, and I've already touched on that some and will in the future in terms of liver stagnation, blood stagnation. So using topicals on an area is very important. One interesting poultice is if you take hyssop and you add it to some hot water, not much, take a quarter cup of water and heat it to the point of boiling. Add a tablespoon or two of hyssop to the point that it's kind of just a mush. As soon as it cools enough to not burn in any way, apply it to bruises. If you have a bruise, and it's a bad one, and you want to get rid of it, applying hyssop to the area directly as a poultice, you'll find, and then tying a bandage around it, gauze, just basically keeping it on overnight. By morning, it should have removed most or all of the bruise. Hyssop has an outward action of its own that's dispersing, and it's a very interesting herb. I really swear by hyssop. I grow it. I encourage you to grow it. It has a great smell. It's great as a tea for clearing mucus, but that's another use of it. So that shows you how applying something topically can really help. Other areas that are great for applying, let me focus for a moment just on ointments. I tend to make a couple of ointments. One for arthritis, rubbing it on, especially where heat's needed. Some arthritis really responds to heat in the form of a very strong cayenne. And other herbs along with the cayenne help to disperse the problem in the joint area, and rubbing it on directly can really speed the relief and the action. I do, and I think I've talked a little bit about the herbs that help if you drink them as tea. But if you use a topical as an ointment and include along with the anti-inflammatories and the heat, along with the cayenne, you include a nervine like oat straw, which helps with soothing the area and helps with inflammation. That combination in an oil, you take the different herbs, you cover them with oil, you either use heat, bring it to a boil, let it cool off, or you can steep them for a week or two and just use that. Some prefer that method. Others, just the Ayurvedic method is to use heat. It's faster. And I tend to now do that because it just basically, it's faster. So making an oil with the herbs that can address. So calendula and comfrey, coptis and forsythia are others that can be included for clearing internal heat and as an antibiotic if you're concerned about infection. Forsythia and honeysuckle japonica applied topically along with whatever the problem is can be very useful. As I've mentioned, the arthritis rub, I've mentioned nervine rubs. Those are all excellent as topicals. I'm going to be doing this as a part 2 as well. So maintenance 15 will be a continuation of this discussion on topicals and poultices because it's very important. It really can add to your maintenance overall as you go through life and do the things you want to do. So look for that one next week. And this is Peggy Miller. Highland Winds LLC is my business. Yes, I make these, but you can also find a variety online, and you can make your own. And I seriously encourage making your own topical oils and using them the same day you've made them. All right? So next week we'll continue. Have a great one. Take care.